There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marcy Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in.
Hello, my beautiful people. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest of season 4, which is Hollie Hauptly. And you guys can't see, we're on Zoom. I know you guys can't see, but that's why I said it that way, because I stared her right in her eyes and hyped her up that way. But Hollie, thank you for being on my podcast. Are you so excited?
I'm so excited. I loved podcasts.
And you have your own podcast and you've been on a billion podcasts, but tell everybody what your podcast is so they can tune in if it's one of their interests.
So ours is just the Birth Bootcamp podcast. That's our business name. You can find us anywhere if you just search Birth Bootcamp. And so ours is focused on all things pregnancy, birth, newborns, babies, all that kind of fun stuff.
Perfect. My best friend is pregnant right now. She got pregnant it's a miracle. And so now I've been included in all of this baby talk. And I'm like, I don't even know how to talk about that anymore. Because my youngest is 10 years old, but sometimes my oldest is 16 and she jokes that she's going to have a baby in a couple of years. And I'm like, don't say that, please. But
crazy.
I am glad because you guys, Hollie with Birth Bootcamp has a comprehensive online birthing class, which I have told Hollie this, like, I did not even know anything about birth. Even when I was done having 4 kids, like as a personal trainer, I didn't even know that your abs could separate. Like I just was lucky that I could get a 6-pack back. But how many moms try to go and get a 6-pack and then they realize there's just so much crap about birth and postpartum that they did not know. So Hollie, what would you say is the biggest point you like to teach new moms? Like somebody who's never had a baby, they're interested in a class. What's the number one thing you want them to learn?
I want them to learn that they are in charge. That they know their body the best. And I want them to learn about like all of their options, what's available to them, because then they can make truly informed decisions. Yeah.
I like that. That also is like accountability. That's kind of what I like is I read one time that sometimes hospitals will treat mothers like a patient instead of a birthing partner. And it's like, that makes perfect sense because the moms, it's like, she's doing all the work. It is her experience,
it's her body.
Yes, her body, all of that. So I think that's a really great message that I wish I would have had earlier. So let's see if we can't tie these two topics together because Hollie, you've been my client for the past 6 months and you've been really doubling down on accountability. What would you say is one of the biggest things you've learned about your body, your choices, all of that while hiring an accountability coach?
I think that the biggest thing is that I have to make myself accountable. I can't rely on others outside of me to keep me accountable and to do the things that I need to do. I think that that's what a lot of us start out thinking of with accountability is I'm going to have somebody, and I kind of thought that when I hired you, like I need somebody outside of myself to like get me to do the things I know I should be doing. But it's all really more about like, how do I make myself accountable to myself? Because I have, this big long list of things that needs to be done. And so it's setting up, systems and priorities and things like that to make sure that it happens.
Yeah. In hindsight, what do you think would have happened with us working together if I just told you what to do all the time instead of like guiding you with your own answers?
I probably would have started to resent it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the type of person. I don't like when people tell me what to do.
Yeah.
That's what I like to be like, this is what I want to do on my time, on my schedule. Like that's one reason why we've chosen to homeschool our kids. It's like we like to have our own schedule and do our own thing. So I probably would have gotten tired of it very quickly.
Yeah. I guess you would have had 1 5K under your belt too, right?
Right.
we talked about. Well, one thing that is important, I guess, for listeners to know is the accountability code helps with anything in life. So even though Hollie hired me for business, we did address a lot of things personally. And I think that understanding that personal, like, just like you said, you were learning to be accountable to yourself instead of just having somebody tell you what to do. And I think that's what accountability is all about. I mean, it's true that some people hire me because they're like, you're going to tell me what to do and I'm going to be successful. And I'm like, I'm not putting that responsibility on me. This is about you. So when it comes to how you educate your own clients, how do you separate, the results that you can give them and like what actually happens? Because birth can be scary, right? And you really cannot control the outcome. But how do you teach them the balance between their own actions and what might happen?
I love this question because I'm about to give this spiel on Thursday because I start teaching an in-person class soon. But at the very beginning of every class, I give them homework for each class, but I say, I can sit here and teach you all the things that you need to know, but it is not going to sink in. It's not going to mean anything if you don't go home and do more research and really decide what's important to you in order to make those decisions. Like, they have to practice the things that we learn, things like that. And so if they don't do those things, then it's not going to help them in the long run be able to navigate their birth experience. And so that really is, I'm like, I've taught you everything I possibly can teach you. Our comprehensive class is almost 20 hours. That's a lot of information. So if they don't take that and try to apply it to their situation and make decisions based off of what they've learned, talking to like their midwife or their OB, practicing all of the exercises, things like that, then it's not going to really help them change the experience or have the experience that they want to have.
Yeah. I love that. 20 hours. Ladies, just imagine if you had 20 hours of education as opposed to, even 2 hours of people's horror stories or stupid advice about birth, And I really like that you bring this up because having a trusted source of information is so powerful in you being able to make your own choices. And I think that's true with accountability too, because I try to help people understand like what's available to you right now. What have you been feeling? What do you know you need to do? And let's start there. So yes, I think a comprehensive place to learn is really, really powerful. What in your course, what's like the hot lesson? What's one that gets a lot of attention? Would you say?
That is a really good question. Because I find myself saying like, oh, this is my favorite topic to like everything. I think we get a lot of people who are like, I'm surprised by what they took away, because a lot of people, when they think of like, oh, take a birth class, they're going to be like, well, how do I know when I'm in labor? And how do I know when to go to the hospital? And how, like, they're thinking of those things. But when you look at the bigger picture, it is knowing, how do I go and talk to my doctor about how these things. And I want them to know how to, like I said earlier, navigate the whole situation, because birth is unpredictable. We don't know how it's going to play out. We have no control over, what happens in almost no control, but there are decisions that we have to make throughout that whole experience, no matter how it plays out. And so it's helping them realize that they have to be active participants in this. They need to know what their options are in order to be able to kind of figure that out as it happens.
Yes.
Especially for like their partners. Their partners are such an important role in this too, because when a mom's in labor, she's kind of in a different headspace. And so their partners have to know this information just as much so that they can help with that decision-making process.
Yes. I love that. I like that you use the words active participant. Those are the actual words I used to use for everybody who is in a current program with me. And it was very much like, when you're trying to be accountable, it is an active thing. People don't just become accountable on accident.
Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcybarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in.
So what parallels would you say you found between working with me and learning the accountability code and what you teach your clients too?
Well, I have to think about that one. I think something that's kind of popping into my head is we can't continue doing the same things if we want a different outcome.
Mm.
And so a lot of people I will hear will say, well, I want this specific type of birth, but they're not willing to do the work or make changes, maybe changing their care provider or changing where they're planning to have their baby in order to help them get the best outcome that they want. And I think I see that in life anywhere, in business, personal life. Like if you want to change things, that means you need to change what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
Yeah. Which that's like, sometimes we want to cover our ears when people tell us that.
Oh, sure. All the time.
Why do I have to do this? And I think it's really awesome because when you adopt that mindset of I'm going to be active in this, then the outcome is awesome if it turns out to be what you want, but you are able to find wins along the way and you find benefits just for being actively engaged in the process. So I think that's really awesome. But yes, we can't just talk about it. Like you have to try it. You have to go experience it and apply it at a level and pace that's right for you. When you were going through the accountability code, what was one of the steps that challenged you a lot that really you were like, do I really have to do this?
Well, I told you this a while ago. It was kind of that humility piece. Like for whatever reason, that did not stick with me. Yeah. And I did. I had to like reread that part kind of a couple of times, and kind of think about like, how do I use that? How do I apply that? I don't know, because I feel like I'm so good about like being like, this is the thing we want to do, and the implementation and that kind of stuff. But it's like kind of that reflection and the humility in the beginning before you just like jump into action. I think that that's so important, and we skip those parts a lot.
Yes, and it's easy. When we implement a lot, sometimes we just bank on that. Like I'm hustling, I'm doing everything I can. Why isn't it working out? And it's like, hang on, you forgot the reflection and humility piece first, because really that sets our compass for where we're going to put all the work and all the effort. And one thing that I loved that we touched on, which sometimes it seems so stupid that it's something so little, but it's like, it makes a big difference. So I'm going to call you out a little bit. And the reference to the 5K, one of the things that popped up for Hollie was like, if you want a successful business, you got to make sure that you're healthy yourself so that it can translate into the productivity of your business. So one of the things that came to be one of your commitment items was walking regularly or moving your body in any way, shape, or form. So tell me your thoughts on that when you're like, this is my commitment item, walking more often. What were you thinking about that?
Well, like I know what my business goals are. And, we've been working on those and things like that. So part of me was like, to really solidify the accountability code, I wanted to use it in different parts of my life. And I kind of wanted to do something that I was like, I know I can accomplish that, but it's going to still push me a little bit. And my physical health has been something that like I need to work on. I sit at my computer way too much, doing too much work. I know I'm not active enough. And I know that when I am taking better care of myself physically, eating well and exercising, moving my body, I can actually do more with my business. And so that's what I said. I said, I want to walk every day for 30 minutes. And I pretty much did that. I missed a few days, and then it was a little tricky when I was out of town, but for the most part, I pretty much did it. But I think it goes back to that like reflection of like, okay, how am I going to make this work in my really busy lifestyle? And, and the prioritizing it and things like that. I think that's what made the difference.
I love that. And I haven't asked you this before, so your answer will just kind of determine which way we go. Are you closer to running a 5K now than before or no?
I mean, probably. I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah.
But like when I was out of town and I wasn't walking, I could feel a difference. Like, because I was sitting in conferences for days and I can just feel a difference. So like being home this week, I've been making sure to get them in because I just feel so much better. I have more energy. So I'm sure that I'm closer to it. Do I want to do it? I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, listeners, Hollie never, ever expressed any interest in doing a 5K, but we had talked about like, okay, what is an extreme version of the action step that you need to do? And so I was just thinking, if I was the kind of coach that just barked out orders, you'd be running a 5K. And that just goes to show really the ability to listen to ourselves and tune in tells us our perfect action steps. So I would be very surprised if you're like, I ran one last week, but it was never, ever a part of the goals or anything. And I think even with birth and accountability, like sometimes people just make us believe that this is the end goal. This is the perfect way that it should be. And if you take care of yourself and you do all that you should have no problems when it comes to birth. And it's like, no, that's just not how it goes at all. We can only do our best and prepare as much as possible. But then, like you said, adapt, be ready for anything that might happen. So how would you say you are more adaptable than you used to be due to working with me?
I think I'm able to look at things better and just kind of analyze, like, is this going to be something that's good for me or not? I've been getting better at like, this is not helpful for me at this time, either putting it on the bookshelf for later or like, yeah, let's jump on this and do it.
I love that. So people should tune into your podcast if they are one, going to have a baby, or who else would enjoy listening to your podcast?
Anybody that is interested in becoming a doula or a childbirth educator, because we offer trainings for that, or just anybody who loves learning or all that kind of stuff about pregnancy and birth.
Yeah. I think I should listen to it more often so I can be a better friend to my bestie who's gonna have a baby. I'll pretend like I know what I'm doing now.
Right.
And all of that. And then where can people find you? And one thing that you and I worked on together during our coaching was your birth plan blueprint. So tell people about that too.
Yes, they can download their birth plan blueprint. So that is a PDF that will just be sent to your inbox, and it talks about how to begin thinking about what you want on your birth plan and how to write your birth plan and things like that. So it's kind of a good stepping point to get you started with all of that. So the easiest place to find us is to just go to birthbootcamp.com, and all that information is there. But you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Just search in Birth Bootcamp, you'll find us.
Perfect. And I will say this too, even if you have already had babies, take the class. I mean, I was telling Hollie in some of our conversations, my third baby, I was like, I already know what I'm doing. I've done this a few times. And Hollie's going to get mad when I say this. I did not go to the doctor till I was 13 or 14 weeks pregnant, which is like a huge no-no. But I did not know that. I just thought that I was fine. And I think that whether you've had one kid, two kids, three kids, if you're not done having kids, go and take Hollie's Birth Bootcamp class, because I'm a big fan of qualified information, but not just information, help and support along the way. And I think that Hollie definitely displays that. And the fact that you train doulas, it's like, it's not just here, sign up for this class and take it. It's let's get some support. Let's make sure you are empowered to make your own decisions. And you have the confidence to talk to all of your providers, because even if you have a good one, I think you definitely have to be proactive in making sure that you can have the very best experience possible. So thank you for being on this podcast. Anything else you've been dying to share with my listeners? You can tell them how horrible it is to work with me sometimes.
No, I think we covered most of it, but it's been really helpful. And just like I said, it's in so many different aspects of our lives, not just our business, but it will affect you, in your personal life and family and relationships and all that kind of stuff. So I loved it. It was so helpful.
And for the record, you enjoyed getting a loving kick in the pants then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and everybody else, we'll see you next week for another episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.